Hi, dear listeners. Welcome back to the platform. We are still continuing the poem Caged Bird, and this is going to be um, another part where we are going to look at the figures of sounds and figures of speech at the same time in this poem. Here in the poem, as pertaining to the figures of sound and speech, the copious rhythmic devices in Maya Angelou's Caged Bird are the cases of run-on lines, which is also known to be enjambments. And I've once explained this, that enjambment means the continuation of the lines of poem. That is, the first line will not end, it continues in the second and the third line until where you have full stop, as desired by the literary writer. And repetitions. We have repetitions as well. We have parallelism. We have contrast, symbolism, personification, euphemism, paradox, onomatopoeia, and lastly, metaphor in the poem. So let's take them one by one. I'm going to start with repetition. And when we say repetition, it means a situation whereby a line in the poem is repeated twice, three times, or four times as a way of laying emphasis by the literary writer. That is the essence of the use of repetition in a literary work. So the cases of repetition are intense in the poem, and that intensity is reflective of the resilient manner in which the caged bird song of protest is sung. The following lines showcase the instances of repetition in the poem. We have, so he opens his throat to sing. That is seen in line 14. Another instance is the caged bird sings. That is from line 15. So also with a fearful thrill. That is line 16. Of things unknown. Line 17. But armed for steel. Line 18. On the distant hill. Line 18. On the distant for caged bird. Line 21. Sings of freedom. That is in line 22. And many more of these from the poem. Those are the instances of repetition as found in the poem. The next is parallelism. When we say parallelism, we're talking about the usage of grammatical units by the literary writer. And this is a situation whereby in the lines of the poem, you have this grammatical units being repeated in two or three or more than three lines in the poem. So, in the poem, the cases of parallelism, just like that of repetition, are as equally intense as they contribute to the highlights the seriousness of the reminiscence nature of the subject matter. The cases of parallelism are marked thus: his wings are clipped and his feet are tied. This is seen in lines 12 and 13. With a fearful thrill of things unknown. Line 16, 17. And the trade wind soft through the singing tree. 24. And the fat worms waiting on a dawn. Line 25. Now, the question is, what makes these lines parallelism? When you look at lines 12 and 13, We have his wings, his feet. The use of his pronoun there shows the grammatical unit called pronoun, and that means parallelism. Not only that, in lines 24 and 25, we have and the trade winds and the fat worms, and the those are grammatical units as well. That is what makes them parallelism. The next one is contrasts. As initially touched under the subject matter and message of the poem, the piece of contrast in the poem is the concept of joyously flying bird and a carelessly caged bird, upon which Maya and Gelu wove the texts. That is, the joyfully flying bird is free and appropriating the common heritage of the birds, while the caged bird is tied down in bondage, lacking access to the heritage. This is what is called contrast, showcasing the difference between a freed bird and a caged bird. The next item there is symbolism. The two cases of symbolism, as already noted under feature or the structure of the poem, include the descriptions of the cheerfully flying bird as symbolism for the white Americans, and secondly, the descriptions of the carelessly tied down and caged bird as symbolism for the black Americans. This is what is called symbolism. When something, a sign, is used as a sign to depict a meaning, that is symbolism. And the next is personification. This is demonstrated by those references to the cheerfully flying bird and carelessly tied down and caged bird with pronouns he and his as if they are human. That is the use of personification. So also it is noted in line 5 of the poem, where we have it as I read line 5 of the poem. We have the fogged. Okay, to now locate it in line 5. So that is the the personification as noted in the poem. The next is euphemism. Euphemism, this is a way or a reference to a particular thing in order not to cause trouble or make something derogatory. So you partially express yourself. Instead of calling somebody a thief, you say the person is a light-fingered fellow. That is minimal, and it is not everybody that understands that. Or, as pertaining to some other land, instead of saying the king is dead, they say the king kicked the bucket. This is what is meant by euphemism. And the following line 14 of the poem, as equally repeated as line 33, underscore the case of euphemism and the poem. So he opens his throat to sing. That is line 14. This underscores a euphemism because it is referring to the unpleasant intense civil rights activism put to bear against the white Americans by the blacks in the process of fighting for their absolute freedom. That is what that means. He opens his throat to sing. The line is not a matter of a pleasant song. Another thing there is a paradox. This is underscored in the following lines 28 and 29 of the poem thus. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. 28 and 29. In the lines, the words grave and dreams as used marked of the device paradox. and it means on the surface, the word grave possibly means the space for keeping the memory of the dead. And this is interpretative as a history. That is what it depicts. And also, the use of a word dreams possibly means hope. The two words, as used together in the poem, turn out this paradox. And the caged bird refused to lose the hope of freedom, that one day will be one day when it will be free, on the account of its history, which, when put to bear, was capable of getting its ransom. I hope that is clear. And next is onomatopoeia. This has to do with a particular sound attached to a thing. And the case of onomatopoeia is underscored in the poem as seen or as quoted in line 24 of the poem. And the trade winds soughed through the singing tree. That is an extract from the poem, line 24 precisely. The phrase, the singing tree, is the onomatopoeia which implies the rustling of leaves on a tree at the instance of a breeze or wind. When the wind blows, you see the what? The leaves falling off the tree. The next one, which is the last one on this note, is metaphor. A good number of metaphor is deployed by Maya Angelou to clarify the pieces of a message in this poem, especially insights into the trauma encountered by Black Americans before putting to bear the freedom-yielding civil rights activism. For instance, the following line 8 of the poem, as rewarded as line 27 elicits or showcases a piece of metaphor thus, and dares to claim the sky. That is line 8. Another line, which is line 27, and he names the sky his own. On the surface, the metaphor pinpointed above is that the free-flying bird consciencelessly appropriated the whole of the sky, being an heritage partly owned with the caged bird to itself. That is, the bird claims everything in the sky, not minding the caged bird. By extension, the metaphor is a sum up of all rightless syndromes and deprivations visited on the Black Americans by the whites, the exercise of power by the whites upon the blacks in the same native land. The word rage in line 11 of the poem is a piece of metaphor as well, which implies protest. So also the phrase distant hills in line 20 of the poem, as repeated as line 38, underscores a piece of metaphor which implies community of nations. Finally, the whole of lines 30 and 31 of the poem showcase another lucid metaphor, which is his shadow shouts on a nightmare. That is line 30. Also, scream in line 31. So, the metaphor underscored above, that is in the two lines, is that the caged bird or Black Americans as a symbolism, despite its artificial gagging or caging and manacling, were able to put to bear a powerful protest to actualize their freedom. So at last, the hope is received as met or as destined by God. So this is about the figures of speech and sounds as we have in the poem Caged Bird, written by Maya, and Kelu. So wait or look forward later for the themes in the poem. And this is how far we can go today in this lesson. Always remain safe. Thank you.